Anyway, all right, we are going to do something today. We're going to do our top 5 guys in the portal that Florida State picked up and just kind of go through some of our notes, why we like them, why we think they'll be big impacts. Obviously, Florida State struggled to find anything out of the portal last year that brought them any success, and we're obviously hoping that things are different this year. We haven't compared lists. Maybe we should have at the start of this thing, but we haven't compared lists. We haven't looked at each other's lists. Let's do our top 5. Richie, you can start. If one of us mentions, we only took so many guys, and I'm sure we kind of know who our impact guys are. But if one of us mentions a guy that is on somebody else's list, then we can just kind of add thoughts there. So we probably won't pass this thing back and forth 10 times. But who's your number 1 on your list?
So you want to start at number 5 and work down to 1?
I don't really care. Whatever you want to do.
Start at 5, and let's build some suspense here.
It ain't that much suspense. These people know what's coming. But go ahead.
So my number 5 is Deuce Robinson,
Okay.
wide receiver from USC. Florida State was heavily in the mix. Obviously, his dad was the original 4th and 14 against Florida back in the 2003 game. Dominic Robinson, he's a guy that I really wanted out of high school. USC was able to snag him, but now he has transferred to Florida State, and the wide receiver play was pretty atrocious last year. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So he's my number 5.
Okay, I didn't put mine in order, but I'll just kind of compare wide receivers. I don't have Deuce on mine because I put Squirrel White because I figured you would put Deuce. So Deuce would be in my top 5 for sure, and he's probably a tie with Squirrel White. But yeah, same reasons. Wide receiver position was just so awful last year that you're hoping it can get better. Year 3 at this point of Hakeem Williams. Some of the young guys that you had like McCoy and Moore that were on the roster last year, they're very excited for Boggs and feel like he could be a guy that produces really early. So I think Squirrel and if Hakeem makes a jump, obviously you're probably thinking Deuce is your number 1. I don't know that you have like a number 1 that would start like a ton of other places. Robinson's probably the closest to that, but you might have gone from like a bunch of number 3s to like 4 or 5 number 2s now, right? Where you really do have a lot of solid options, and you hope that somebody, whether it's Hakeem, whether it's Deuce, whether it's Squirrel, whether it's one of those young guys from last year, whatever, you hope that somebody can truly be a number 1 this year. But even if not, it feels like you've raised the floor of that room a ton, and Squirrel White, Deuce Robinson certainly helped you do that. What you got next?
Yeah, so Squirrel White was actually my number 3 since you just mentioned him. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think Tennessee, he was not a player that they wanted to lose, but he just felt for whatever reason he wanted to find another opportunity. So I actually had him at number 3, but then my number 4, again, position of need, Adrian Medley from UCF, and I feel somewhat confident in that take because Herb Hand and Gus Malzahn, who came over from UCF, they're not going to take a bum with them. If they brought someone with them from UCF, it's someone that they really like. They like their game. And the offensive line, again, when you're 2 of 10, everyone underperformed. But the offensive line, I was shocked at how bad they were. And I'm hoping that Medley can help, improve that unit.
I will get right back to the video, but guys, we are less than 2 months away from tax day. And if you've been waiting to get your taxes done, wait no longer. I want to give a little bit of love to my buddy Chris Russo of Russo & Co. Now, Chris has been a 20-plus year CPA. He has an MBA. He also has a law degree. And if you own a business or you need any tax help this year, give my guy Chris a shout. Right now, he will do a free consultation. If you need any advice, if you need any help, if you don't quite know what you're doing, he will certainly get you taken care of. He can help with 1099 or W-2 prep. He can help with income taxes or income tax planning and preparation, as well as many other business services that you may be in need of. Now, he treats his clients with respect. He hates the IRS just like you do, and he'll fight for every cent of your money. He's a Nole, just like you and me, and he will get you taken care of. His number and website are down below. They're also in the description. If you want a personal introduction to Chris, message me on social media or to my email, and I will get that done. Appreciate Chris Russo. We'll tell you more about him as the weeks go on. But if you need tax help or you need anything during this season, make sure that you reach out to him. Okay, so yeah, I'm on the offensive line here too on number 4. I put Luke Pettibon though. Just middle, kind of the same idea, right? Like I just that center position's so massive. You know, he's kind of the captain of the O line. Obviously, a kid that touches the ball every single play. You know, I think. I mean, you could go with all 5 offensive line though, or all 4 that you kind of
Yeah.
expect to start. And so, honestly, in doing this list, it probably should have just been like the 4 offensive linemen and Castellanos. But to kind of have a little diversity of different guys we were putting on it, I have Pettibon for all the same reasons. A guy who was kind of all ACC-ish, like he like brings a ton of talent, like played really well at Wake, and you're hoping that he can kind of translate that over to Florida State. And the offensive line, like we talked about with the receiver room, was just absolutely terrible. And so I feel like our picks have been not boring, but just somewhat like, oh, well, you're picking guys where you were just terrible. Like you pick anybody there. Yeah, probably. Like that's how bad those worms
Every
were. So like,
position terrible.
yeah, anybody coming in is an upgrade at those 2 positions for sure. So yeah, Pettibon's my next one. And then I'll keep it since you did your number 3 of Squirrel White.
Yep.
My number 3 is Randy Pittman. I'm really excited for this tight end. Just a kid that UCF absolutely did not want to lose. A kid that so you remember Kylan Fox, who was committed here and then ended up flipping, or was he committed here or you just thought he was going to commit here? I don't remember it one way or the other. But a kid that Florida State absolutely kind of like held the lead for. And then he ended up going to UCF. They sold him in a big way on being able to be in a lot of 2 tight end formations with Randy Pittman. And I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he's going to be really, really good for the Noles. Obviously, you have some tight end talent. We'll see what happens with Amari Williams if he plays both sides of the ball. You have Landon Thomas back. You got Biscuit back this year, which to me still like is a little bit of an interesting take. We'll see kind of where that falls. But I like Pittman a ton. I think he brings a really dynamic skill set. He's huge. You need some guys that can separate and create matchup nightmares for defenses, and I think he does. So I like Pittman a ton. So he's my number 3. What do you? I think we're up to 2 on you because we did 3 for you already.
Yeah, I do like Pittman as well. He's not on my top 5, and again, this list, who you talk to, no matter what outlet you're talking about, it's going to vary. But I do like the Pittman pick. I'm just not huge on tight ends because I've not really seen Mike Norvell use tight ends outside of that big QB draw against North Carolina in 2020 when we hit him for like a 40-yard gain. But my number 2 is James Williams, the edge rusher from Nebraska. I think, again, we did not get much pressure on the quarterback. So these might sound boring, but I think these are legitimately good pickups because you are filling needs, and that's what you need to do in the transfer portal. You need to do a better job in high school recruiting. But every year, I don't care if you're Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, you're going to have needs that you need to fill in the transfer portal. And I think James Williams fills that need.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for him. He's actually my number 2 as well. And then I'll flip to number 1, and then we might have the same number 1 here. It wouldn't shock me at all if we did. But yeah, he's my number 2 as well. I mean, I would say I like that you got Jackson back, and I think you've got other pieces on that line that can come together. But I would say defensive line is a pretty big concern for me heading into spring. Like that's a position group that I think really needs to improve, really needs to take a step forward because it was terrible last year and you lost a lot of the terribleness off of it, thankfully. But you still just have no idea how it's going to perform, right? Like you got guys like, I mean, Williams was really, really good, but you got guys from maybe lower levels to come up. You lost a lot of what you thought was going to be really, really good there last year in Peyton and obviously Farmer climbing up draft boards. I mean, he was really good for you even on a defensive line that wasn't very good. MJJ went to Oklahoma. Again, he was terrible while he was here, so nobody's upset about that. But you're just wondering, if that defensive line, I mean, we couldn't stop the run at all last year. And so you're kind of wondering, can they this year? Is it crazy to say I have more confidence in the offensive line based on who they brought in than I do the defensive line? Now I trust Coach Knighton and I think that they'll be okay, but like until you see it, man, it's really hard to know. It's really hard to know kind of where that goes, what ends up happening. So yeah, I need Williams to be good. I need the entire defensive line to be good, but he's my number 2. Like I think he needs to be a difference maker out there. And then number 1, I mean, maybe we have the same thing here. I mean, it's the quarterback for me. Yeah. It's what Castellanos does or doesn't do. I was asked about it yesterday on a radio hit for some guys in North Florida, and I just kind of said, like, look, you know, he's going to be the difference, right? Like, you know, last year we thought that we could kind of just bring in a game manager that there'd be enough good around him to where like DJ wouldn't have to win or lose games. Like I think they're going to ask Castellanos to go out and win or lose games at times. And I think he probably will win you some games and he probably will lose you some games, you know? And if he's slightly better than he is bad, then they'll probably be 7-5, 8-4. If he's slightly worse than he is better, they're probably going to be 5-7, 6-6, right? Like that's just, you know, it's razor thin margins. Those are, to me, those are their four most likely scenarios for records, right? Whatever order you want to rank them, 7 most likely, 6 second, 8, and then 5. That'd probably be how I rank them in order of, you know, how what they finish with. But it's going to come down to how well Castellanos plays, and if he plays well, they'll be in just about every game. If he doesn't, buckle up, man, because it's going to get uncomfortable around here. So, I mean, I don't know how you'd pick anybody but him as your number one.
Yeah, he was that was the easiest one to pick. You know, the other four were a little tricky to try and figure out, but Castellanos is by far the number one. I had no idea he was related to Devontae Freeman, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he is the guy that's going to come in. You know, Gus Malzahn took a quarterback team or a team led by quarterback Nick Marshall to the BCS national title game in 2013. Shout out to the reigning BCS national champs, Florida State. But yeah, I think he adds a dynamic that we haven't really seen. Even Jordan Travis's last year, he didn't run nearly as much as I thought he would. And the one time he felt like he really needed to run, it ended his career at Florida State, unfortunately. But no, I think quarterback is the most important position in any team sport out there. And it's more so in college than it is in the NFL. In the NFL, you can win with average or bad quarterbacks. In college, it's a lot harder to do that. So I agree with you. How far he takes us will be based on his performance, obviously. But he's clearly the most important transfer, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing come September.
Yeah, we'll see what it ends up looking like.